another episode of Lynchburg Sees Us. My name is Olivia, and I'm super excited to be introducing this week's episode. In this week, we're actually going to talk about Father's Day. So happy Father's Day to every single father out there. We've talked to some phenomenal men here in our community. So we hope that you guys enjoy this episode. And thanks so much for tuning in with us today.
Welcome back to another episode of Lynchburg Sees Us. This is our Father's Day edition, and we do indeed have some of Lynchburg's finest here to join us in conversation today. So we're going to start by letting each of our guests introduce themselves. So if you could just give us your name, your current profession, and how long you've lived in the Lynchburg area. So Daniel Bragg, I'm going to start with you.
All right, well, I'm Daniel Bragg. I am actually a career management officer for the recruiting operations branch at the National Guard Bureau in Arlington. Thankfully, I get to work from home, so that's why I'm here in Lynchburg, which I have been for 10 years now.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. Matthew Mason.
I'm Matthew Mason, principal at Sandusky Middle School, the only middle school in Lynchburg City. No, I'm joking. I'm sorry. My fault. I saw Mr. Rule, so I brain messed up. So I've been here now, I think about 3 years, probably getting close to going on 4. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you. Lazarus Hamlett.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing well. My name is Lazarus Hamlett. I am the Director of School Counseling at Dunbar Middle, and I am also one of the site directors for Iron Lives. And I lived in Lynchburg the majority of my life, so almost 26 years. So yeah, very glad to be here with you all.
Excellent, thank you. Mr. Dani Rule.
Hey everybody, Dani Rule, principal at the greatest middle school in the city of Lynchburg, metropolis of Lynchburg.
Yes, metropolis.
And I'm, as I shared, a principal, and I've been here 14 years living, but an additional 4 at school, so 18 years total in the city of Lynchburg.
Very nice. Okay, double digits. And Mr. Sterling Wilder.
Good afternoon. I'm so honored to be here with you today. My name is Sterling Wilder. I am from Lynchburg, so I will not tell you how long I've been here. I'm just saying I'm from Lynchburg, been here all my life, except for college. I kind of commuted back and forth even during college. I'm currently the executive director and founder of the Jubilee Family Development Center, and I'm also a member of Lynchburg City Council, which is the greatest city in all of Virginia. Yes.
Yes. Bless you, Mr. Sterling Wilder, and shout out to Jubilee. That was definitely a milestone marker in my youth as well. Thank you all, gentlemen, for being here so much.
Yeah, so we're going to continue right along. So the first question, I'll start with you, Daniel. How many children do you have, and what are their ages?
I have 2 children. Russell is 4, Jordan is 2.
All right, Matthew, you can go next.
I got 2 beautiful little girls. One is 8, the other one is 7.
All right. Lazarus, or Laz is what I'm going to call you.
All right, so I have 3 beautiful children, 2 beautiful daughters. Aubrey, who is my oldest, is 7. Next is the boss, who is in charge, Ava, who is 2, but is actually 30 years old. And my youngest addition, my handsome, my beautiful baby boy, Laz the third, who is 3 months. So
Awesome.
Congratulations.
thank y'all.
All right, Dani, you can go next.
I have 4 awesome kiddos. Tristan is 8, Camden is 6 years old. I have a 5-year-old named Ella. And the boss at our house, Laz, is Audrey, and she is 3. She runs the ship.
All right, and Sterling?
Okay, I do not have any biological children. I have been a foster parent for over 20 years. I've had about almost 50 foster children. I currently have, I currently have I have 5 kids living with me right now, 3 foster kids, and 2 kids that I'm raising. The oldest one is 20. Then the next one is 18. Then one's 17, one's 16, and one's 14.
Wow.
So I have a full house.
I love it. I love it.
Wow.
I don't know if you love it or not. and to pay my food bill. You would love that, but
Are they all boys or?
I have 2 kitchens, so I have to keep them both full.
Oh, stocked. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
All right, so moving on to focus on a little bit about you. What are or is your biggest accomplishment in your life? So let's switch it up. We'll start with Lazarus.
For me, outside of, graduating from college, that was definitely a major goal for me, especially in my immediate family. My mother, she is an educated woman. She went to community college. And my father, he's worked all his life, and he served our country. So he was in the Army. So, in my immediate family, I'm actually the first one to ever go to college. So, that was definitely a major goal for me and my family, let alone, being able to obtain my master's and now working on my EDS. I can't speak to as how important education is. That is one major accomplishment, but in all honesty, to me, being a father is one of my major accomplishments. To this day, me and my wife, I'm just surprised I'm still shocked as to, I look at her sometimes and my kids, and I'm like, yo, we have 3 kids. Like, I'm a dad, so I would definitely say that.
I'm sure that's going to be a shared response over here. Mr. Sterling Wilder, what about you?
To me, one of the biggest accomplishments, about 30 years ago, I started the Building Young Men Mentoring Program. Because I was in my church, there were only a few young men and ladies really been active in church worship. So I want to get them more active. So I started a mentoring program after reading the book by Jonathan Jufu called The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys, where it mainly talked about the 4th grade syndrome when African-American males started to decline. So I was living in D.C. and commuting on weekends. So I started a mentoring program. One of the things he suggested to combat that. So I started that just as a thing out of my church ministry. And now here we are from 30 years later, 10 years after that, starting the Jubilee Center. And now through that for the past 20 years. So just following the passion and following my heart and following the calling of God, I started the Jubilee Center. And now we've seen hundreds and thousands of kids' lives change. So that to me has been the biggest accomplishment, is by following my heart, following my passion, and ultimately starting the Jubilee Center.
I feel inspired listening to you. Daniel Bragg.
All right, yes, ma'am. I guess one of my greatest, in my opinion, I kind of resonate a lot with Lazarus in regards to finishing school. I was one of the first, if we don't count you and my other sister-in-law or my sister-in-law, in my family, I was the first one to complete a bachelor's degree, which is pretty large. We have a huge family, and to be able to say that's mine is pretty cool. But I kind of put it up there with, graduating from basic training and going through the Army process. I've done that as well. So those are kind of equal. But again, with Lazarus, Catherine, you can attest to this, that sometimes out of nowhere, we'll just get overwhelmed with the blessing of our children and knowing that, hey, look, these are our kids. We have these kids, we made these kids, and they reflect off of us, and it'll blow your mind just randomly whenever. So I would say that's definitely my greatest accomplishment.
Got a little teary-eyed. Matthew Mason.
So mine's a little different. I would definitely agree with them. The girls that we have is definitely an accomplishment. I think it's an accomplishment working with them every day, because sometimes I would like to send them over to Mr. Rule just with what they do. They're awesome. I think my biggest accomplishment, because it's impacted how I do things now, is making my 11th grade year, getting on the varsity basketball team. The reason I say that is because I've always been taught not to quit. I didn't make the team through middle school or my 9th grade year, and it was a perfect opportunity for me to just quit and just be like, hey, this isn't for me. But I didn't, and I worked real hard over the summer, made the team, ended up being the captain of the team my senior year, high school. But the reason I say that is because it's impacted everything I've done since then. I don't believe that there's anything I can't do. If you give me enough time, I can figure it out. And I know that the moment that I quit, then I didn't accomplish it. So until I just don't accomplish it, then I'm just gonna keep trying till I do. And I try to instill that hopefully in the girls as well, so that they know, don't say what you can't do. The only reason you'll know that is if you just don't do it. So just keep trying until you get it done. So that's me.
I love that. I think that says a lot about you, that moment was so inspiring for you. Dani Rule.
Yeah, this is a funny question, right? Or a tough one to answer a little bit. I think professionally, I've been real excited, and so when I think of biggest accomplishment, what am I most proud of? I think professionally is being in a principalship position here in the city where I began teaching, and so that's been pretty exciting for me and humbling for me. But I think what I'm most proud of goes with what we've heard a lot of, is just being a dad and a husband. I'm super proud of my kids, and super excited to do life with my wife, and that's probably what I might hang my hat on, right? Is how I do. If I failed at being a principal, that's not, I gave it my best shot, but being a dad and husband, and it's not much of what I've done myself, but God keeping me in those roles and in a great way. So, and giving me grace when I needed it. So,
Amen.
That's been something that I always say, that I'm like, your job comes second, family first. That's amazing. Thank you, guys.
And so just to keep the conversation flowing and going, you guys are some heavy hitters. I mean, real talk, you are not lazy gentlemen by any means. So what are your hobbies and just your self-care? Like, what does that look like? Because you're not solar powered or battery operated. So how do you guys keep yourselves going? Matthew, I think I'm going to start with you.
So big shout out to my wife, because I'm the type of individual, probably until about 8 years into our marriage, I didn't know how to rest, right? Like that, I think my wife and I were talking this morning, like my brain is always going. So it's hard for me to just stop. A lot of times it was, the way I rested was to get sick, right? I just got sick, so that made me lay down, and then I finally got myself together. But I like to read. I like working out. I go to work out every morning around 6 o'clock in the morning. I do it every day. It's just a way to drive to get there. Helps me calm my mind. I tend to listen to some type of, listen to a minister named Matthew Stevenson. So I listen to him there. I work out, come back. Some of our partners who are principals, we pray over each other on the way back. And then, that kind of starts my day off well. And then when I get home, again, kudos to my wife. She gives me always a second just to get my head together before the girls storm in and want to give daddy a hug and see what the day was like. Can we watch a movie? What's for dinner? All that kind of stuff. So I would say that's how I, recharge, relax.
Very good. Thank you for sharing. Let's go with Daniel Bragg.
Sorry, I had it muted. I'm not very good at technology. But anyways, I guess for me, self-care, I'm really big into sports. I love sports. It doesn't matter what sport except soccer. I don't love soccer, but I love all other sports, and that's including race car driving and everything. And Catherine can attest to that because she doesn't like it very much. But for me, now that I'm kind of older and not in the best shape of my life, I've gravitated from playing slow pitch softball and stuff like that to I go out and play golf pretty regular. I'm terrible at it. It makes me angry, but it also challenges me. And it's one thing that I really appreciate doing, and I appreciate my wife as well because she puts up with it because it's not cheap and it takes a long time every day. But she does give me that time, and I really appreciate that because it's needed and yeah, pretty much the same reasoning.
And thank you for highlighting that too, because a lot of times I think we don't consider self-care as an investment. And so like that doesn't just cost you time and energy, but like, your funding as well. Like, so you want it to be really worth it. So thank you for sharing that. Mr. Wilder, or Sterling, excuse me, what about you, sir?
That's fine. No, for me, I don't have hobbies per se. When you think about hobby, my faith is my strongest point. My faith is where I go to for rest, relaxation, for joy. I'm the son of a pastor. So my father was pastor of Holiness Church, so I'm holiness. So that is a major part of my life growing up, as well as it is today. I'm still active in the same church. So when I get stressed out or need relief, or if Jubilee needs money for a budget, I go to prayer, I go to church, I go to worship. And then my time in church is just the most, to me, the most relaxing thing. I can't imagine missing church. It's such a part of my life and the fabric. So that's how I get relief. Even when my sister passed a couple of months ago, which is my closest best friend, was the most hardest time. And then Pastor Willis preached a message that Sunday, where you get to the point where you're almost about to lose things, you think, and you say, how am I going to deal with this after the fact of losing your best friend, your close one, the one that we were. Neither one of us is married, so we both had kids, foster kids. We both traveled together. We both, ate dinners together for holidays and things. But then when she left, it was a challenge, But I got through that through my faith and through the pastor preaching the word of God that really, certainly was really directed towards me. So every time I need some therapy, I go to church, I listen to that word, and I apply the word to my life. So for me, that has been the strongest point. And then I enjoy education. So I enjoy taking classes. So sometimes I may go take a course or a program at Harvard, or I'll go to a program at Morehouse. Those colleges I've always wanted to go to. So for relaxation, if you got it strange, I go to school. And I go to do those experiences that you've always wanted to do, but your parents didn't have those resources to do. So I'll do things like going to a program like at a Harvard or Morehouse or things of that nature.
And I'll tell you, Sterling, I've been fortunate to be in class with Sterling. He gives the best presentations. The best. It's always like, yeah, Sterling's up.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Wow. Well, Dani, you go ahead. You follow up. Thank you, Sterling, for that. I love it. That's a great idea. Matthew, I hope you heard that. Spellman. All right, Dani, go ahead.
Yeah, let's see. Hobbies. I think what used to drive me, I used to play basketball quite a bit and love basketball. A strange hobby that's now resurfacing is when I was real little, every little penny I made, with someone in the bank, because I knew I needed to save towards college, but someone towards buying football and basketball cards. And so, I share my condolences with Daniel over there because sports has been non-existent and I can't watch little, derbies on ESPN anymore. I got to have some real big boy sports. But so sports has been a big one. But I love, I think something that just brings my mind where it should be is music and listen to music. But also if I can combine music with being outdoors and in nature and alone, like sometimes just being alone with that music and I piggyback off what Sterling said. It's music, gospel, whatever it might be, what I'm feeling. I like a little bit of everything, but with nature, mountains, whatever, rain, whatever it may be, is definitely something that kind of recenters me.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir. And last, I'm so interested to hear your comments.
Yes. So first off, Mr. Bragg and Mr. Mason, just want to let you know, you all, as you already know, your wives are awesome because day in and day out, they try to keep me on track. So as Tawana was alluding to, for me, self-care is something that I'm still trying to work on. I don't know what it is, but I don't really have like downtime. I feel like I'm gonna miss out on stuff. So I'm involved in a lot of things, but I'm working on that. But for me, I guess you could say playing basketball. I love playing ball. With my group of friends, we try to do that as much as possible. But all in all, also, I just have a great core group of friends in which, I can definitely talk to them to recharge. We have a little group chat, and it's pretty cool because, my friends in the group, we basically have the same goals, and It's pretty cool that a lot of them, still friends till this day. I met at Dunbar. So it's pretty cool, just be able to pass ideas by them and talk. So that basketball, and then of course, also spending time with my girls. Fortunate enough, we have a decent sized backyard. So, just love when I get home, being able to spend time with them in the backyard, running around, and just playing around, laughing. So, right now, I guess you could say that's my relief, and how I'm trying to take.
Very good. That is definitely progress. I am proud to hear all of those things, Laz.
Yeah, I love that you guys all share, because normally I ask like my girlfriends, what do you do for self-care? So I've never really heard what men do for self-care.
Right.
So that's really cool and interesting hearing that. So thank y'all for sharing. I'll have to ask my husband, what does he do with self-care? So you guys, how would you define father? And also, what do you believe is the most important character trait for a father to have? And we will start with, is it okay if we go back to you, Mr. Danny?
Sure thing. Wow, I was hoping I'd follow some of these other people because they're much wiser than myself. But
I got scared when she said Danny.
You gotta be ready.
That was me.
She meant to say Daniel. She meant to say Daniel. Let me go to the most important character. So I think when I reflect, and I think it's a question a little bit later, is just reflect on our own father. I think just wisdom. When I think of dad, I think of wisdom, and that comes in a lot of different ways, whether that's humbleness, humility, calling me out on my stuff, whatever it might be. I think when I think of dad, that's wisdom. And so I think if there's anything that I could hope my kids might say about me is I can be kind and I can be compassionate, but if not very wise, then I maybe haven't led them in the right way. So I think that's a really important. When I think of, I'm very fortunate enough in my own father to see that character trait in him. Defining father, that's outside of the biological term of it. I think it's someone that just because not everybody has that example. It's that person that shows you what life is about, and that rock, that person that's consistent, that's in your life. It's a male figurehead. Kudos to, I say wow when Sterling shared his story a little bit at the start, because he's been a father to so many kids, and so that's that male figurehead that especially as a young man or a grown-up man, trying to grow up a little bit myself, that he's still someone that's a leader and a go-to and a mentor in my life. So I think that's someone that walks you through life ahead of you and shares from their experiences what's right and wrong.
Thank you. All right, Laz.
So for me, I think someone that is, nurturing, someone who is a protector, piggyback off what Mr. Rule said, all those things. My father, he's always been there for me, and to be able to, just live through him, it's pretty awesome. We try to talk all the time, every day. And, me and my dad, like I said, we're big into sports and, football, basketball. So, we get to do those things together. So I'm really, thankful for, that type of stuff. And then also, I think a characteristic in which, which I think I definitely got from my grandfather, not necessarily my dad. My grandfather, who God rest his soul, passed away. But he was like he was 6'5", gentle giant. And I think I got that gentleness, from my grandfather. He definitely was one, as soon as I come to see him, big smile and always, greeted me with a hug and, asked how I'm doing and, slipped candy to me. So, those are things that I think is just very important qualities to have, as a father. And I just try to implement those same things with my kids as well. So
Awesome.
yeah.
All right, Sterling.
When I thought about that question, the thing that comes to my mind is dependability. Because I've worked with the bulk of 90% of my kids don't have fathers. Either the father's incarcerated, or the father on drugs, or the father that's just totally absent. And then they have had a male in their life they can depend upon. So for me, the biggest characteristic they need to be is dependable. That the kids know that they're there for them, that they're not going to leave them. It's not about how much money they have or how much gifts they have. Without people get that confused with about the job you have, you can get more gifts, or you can give them more things. The greatest thing you can give them is your time, your talents, your gift, and to share with them and to spend time with them. That's the most thing. And to let the kids know that they are there for them and their child can depend upon them. So to me, one of the greatest characteristics you need to have is dependability.
Yes, that's good. That's so good. All right, Matthew. Wow.
I think it goes along with everybody. I think big word at first I thought was love, but then responsibility, which I think goes with dependability, because I see a father as a protector. One, I feel like that's my duty, is to make sure that they're okay. A provider, I don't believe that they should lack while I have, right? So I believe that's for every father. They believe that way. And also something that my wife has helped me out with a lot is, and it's not that it changes in being a dad, but sometimes how you react to your kids. I know with me having girls, like there's a certain way I address my students when I need to do certain things, but I address my boys different from my girls, right? So with my girls, one of the things my wife has helped me with is making sure that I remember that they're kids, and making sure that they just enjoy the life that they have. I don't have to try to, make them perfect. They are who they are, and they're great the way they are. And so I think one of the best things that qualities you can have as a dad, and I guess going back to love, is just loving your kid regardless of what's going on. Like circumstances and things like that should not dictate whether you love your kid or not. It is, and me and my youngest kind of had that happen the other day where I had to let her know that, because I could kind of sense it, me getting on her about something, just helping her understand, that what you do doesn't impact that I love you. I mean, I like it, but I love you. So I think that's a huge characteristic that goes along with what everybody was saying.
All right, Daniel.
Well, I guess, I really fall in the shoes of everybody that shared so far. Just going off of what Mr. Mason said, my son, he's 4, and he is just now at the age to where he really realizes when he's doing something wrong that he's going to get scolded or punished for, whatever it is. And he gets to the point where he almost acts as if he doesn't like me for a few days because of it. So it's hard, though, because he's still at the age where, when it comes to trying to explain to him all those things, that I still love you. I might not like it, but I still love you. It's kind of tough. But at the same time, like, they forget about it pretty easily at this age. So we just had this discussion yesterday. But, Mr. Wilder, with all those children that he's had through foster care system, I can really resonate with that. And the reason being is because I was adopted at a young age, and my dad, I guess you could say, if you want to put a word on it, work ethic is pretty important. My dad is the hardest worker I know. There's really nobody can even compete with how hard he's worked his entire life. He's probably working right now, even though doctors have told him not to, but he is a very strong man and a very dedicated man. He wasn't home a lot as a kid. He was home enough, but he wasn't home a lot. And that's because my mother didn't work and there's 8 of us. So it's been, he had to work a lot. So, you know, just his work ethic and just his ability to provide, just like everyone else said, you know, as a dad, you feel like you need to protect. That's a responsibility. That's what you are here to do. You want to make sure that they have everything they need. And I have an issue with wanting them to have a lot more than that too. So, yeah, for me, it's just definitely work ethic is important in regards to passing that down from generation to generation, because, you know, you don't want to have, you know, a lazy family who is always like looking for you to provide for them, because when they get older, they're going to have to provide for their family. So I would definitely say work ethic.
And so that actually leads us into our next discussion about what is the biggest impact, or what impact did your father make on you, whether they were present, missing. What was the impact that you received in your life from your dad? I mean, we can start with you, Daniel, since you were just talking about your dad and his work ethic. That would be excellent.
That's probably where I'd go. We are 2 totally different people. My dad and I, we don't see eye to eye in a lot of ways. But he has definitely, like I said, instilled a great work ethic. Like I said, he's the hardest worker I've ever known, and I can't even measure up to him, to be honest. But I guess when it comes to like what he's provided me is like everyone spoke about, as someone who's kind of walked there with you, who's shown you the ropes. And we're grown now, and we can agree to disagree on some things, but the love that he has for me as a son and the love that I have for him as a father, there's nothing that can ever break that.
Thank you. Dani Rule.
Dad's had a big impact on my life in a whole lot of different ways. I think a few of the different lessons is he showed me it's always life fulfillment's always about someone else. It's always about compassion and care for other people. He's a very humble person, never really talking about himself unless I'm digging up questions and asking him about what he did. Or I think was recently, and I've noticed more as an adult, is, you know, I never questioned Dad loved me. Never, you know, as I'm a father now, it's been interesting to, maybe that's why Dad did it. And there's been a kind of a growing bond from dad to dad, but never questioned how he loved me. Now his love looked a whole lot, you know, that love looked a whole lot of different ways that now I'm understanding a little bit as a dad. And I had some sore spots because of that love sometimes. So, but I'd say he's always, as a 73-year-old man now, he's still trying to grow and learn. And I think that's been huge for me. Like, to always understand somebody else's perspective will help you be a better person. And so that's been big on me. And just recently noticing that about him is, he listens and to understand someone else's perspective. So that's been really huge on me lately.
Mm-hmm. Great. Mr. Sterling Wilder, what about you?
When I was the youngest of 11, so I had a large family. My father was married twice. His first wife left him with 4 kids. So my mother raised his 4, and then also my set. So we had a large family. When I was born, he was 50. So growing up was a little different for me because he was older. But we spent so much time in the church, and we spent so much time taking in so many people. So again, because of his compassion for people, I have an open heart, that kind of filtered to me and also to my sisters. So we always took people in, and one day I had to share him with everybody, but I didn't mind because I saw the work that he was doing. He built like 5 churches all through Virginia. By him being the pastor of the church, he was always called upon. But again, he was always everybody's father. You know, a lot of people in our church didn't have fathers, so he was the father figure for them that they didn't have. So I was able to emulate and have a role model for me growing up of what a true father could be, should be, how he should be dependable, how he should be caring, how he should be loving, how he should be someone that can meet the needs of the people. So by him being a pastor, he did that role as well as the same role in the house. So I was able to see him in the church as well as that same role in the house. And that's how people grow up in some homes. The father might be one way in the public and another way outside in the house, whatever. But I was able to see him both sides, see him the same way. So when people talk about him at the church, I would say, yeah, that's the way he is at the house as well. He's a loving person, loving father figure. So I'm so thankful for his work in life and his work in the community and his work in the church, where I was able to look at that and see that's how I want to live my life, giving back to my community as well as raising kids in our community as well.
Mm. That's great. Lazarus.
So just to piggyback a little bit off what Daniel was saying about his father, work ethic, definitely, my dad is one of the hardest workers that I do know. And, something that he has really instilled in me was, your first impression is a lasting impression. I've always, no matter wherever I'm going, I've always carried that with me. And, like I said, my dad was a big component in my education. Growing up on 15th Street, a lot of, kids my age, I don't necessarily know that, went to college. And, for me, when I was in high school, college was not on my radar. I wasn't thinking about college. I had good grades, and I was working at the time. And, my dad, as well as some of my teachers, he was like, well, what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know, Pop, working, and everything. He said, well, no. He said, you're definitely going to college. And, I remember my senior year, I had pretty much all my credits. I was done with math. I hate math. And my dad, he said, well, you're going to take tricks. Oh, I hated him for that. I was like, man, come on. I said, I want to leave school early. But, it's just stuff like that, that I really appreciate. I ended up loving trig, and I did exceptionally well. And, my dad, like I said, because of him, I have that drive, and I know I can accomplish anything I want to. And, my dad is someone that has always been there for me. I just remember when Aubrey was born. Well, before she was born, we found out that she had TGA, which is a heart defect called transposition of the greater arteries, in which, her arteries was not necessarily where they were supposed to be. And, Aubrey, we found out that she had to have heart surgery. For me, that was one of the most challenging and toughest times in my life. As y'all know, I can't stop smiling. I love to smile. And I just remember, leaving the hospital and, my wife breaking down and, crying and, everything. And I was lost because in that moment, that's something that you just can't control. And, one of the first persons I called, was my father. I was uncontrollably, crying. He couldn't understand what I was saying, but, something like that, like I said, he was able to guide me through that process. So, he has made definitely a tremendous impact in my life, and I'm thankful for him. So.
All right, and Mr. Matthew Mason.
I would agree with everybody about my dad being a hard worker. I tell anybody that other than Jesus Christ, for me, my dad is the greatest man I've ever known, and more so now because I see a lot of the wisdom. I'm also a pastor's kid, so I always give my dad kudos because my dad is very secure in who he is. And my wife and I have talked about this. I've heard different people say things about my dad that I don't always agree with because maybe he was a pastor who, went to work and he didn't, go full time in the ministry like everybody else. And my dad was all about his family, right? So he was going to make sure that he was at the games. He was going to make sure that he was at home. And I always appreciate him for that because I knew he was always there. And so one of the things that I do now, and just as y'all were talking, I realized that I do, and it makes me feel good when the girls get upset that I do it, as I always say, hey, I love you. And they'll be like, sometimes I'll say, hey, Hannah, and she'll be like, I know you love me. And I appreciate that, though, because he would do that all the time. Like, there was never a point in my life where I didn't feel like my dad loved me. And even now, anybody can tell me that I'm doing well, and I won't really believe you. But if he says it, if he says, hey, man, I'm very proud of you, doing a great job, it's almost like food. Like, I can live off of that for months, right? Because it didn't matter what anyone else said. He said I was doing okay. So you can't tell me otherwise because he said it. So I appreciate him probably more than where I feel like I could talk about my dad all day. I just love him dearly.
I'm unmuted now. You guys, thank y'all so much for just taking the time to come on here and talk about what it means to be a father, share your own personal experiences and everything. And we wanted to say happy Father's Day to you all.
Happy Father's Day.
Oh, you guys are amazing, truly. I can't wait to rewatch this. Try not to get teary-eyed, but this means a lot to me. It means so much that you guys would share that. And I know you guys all different from different spheres, even if I don't know you personally, knowing your wives, knowing your sister, knowing everyone, it just, yeah. So thank y'all. And Daniel Bragg, Matthew Mason, Sterling Wilder, Dani Rule, Lazarus Hamlett, I wanted you guys to know that we see you because Lynchburg sees us. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, and thank y'all so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Happy Father's Day.
All right, everybody.
All right. Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.